I'm Shrestha. I've been a native Android developer for almost 5 years now, and just currently I've switched to React Native. Uh, I always wanted to learn how to. I always wanted to know how React Native works, but I hadn't got enough time to start doing it. So I would call myself a late adopter to React Native. It's been a long time since React Native has been launched. So regarding my experience with React Native, I will share how I felt coming from a native Android app developer to someone who's joining into this React Native crowd. And also we'll learn more about knowing all the details of creating apps using React Native so that everyone can dive into it and start coding. While I'm starting with my presentation, these are something that I would like you to do while I go around discussing about our topic today. So first, if you have a basic familiarity with JavaScript, that would be very helpful. ES6 knowledge would also come in handy. It will be very helpful. However, since I also begin with minimal JavaScript knowledge, I was completely a Java person, so you can also catch up. Any programmer can catch up in spite of that. So another thing that I want you guys to install is Node and React Native CLI. So we'll be using these two, we'll be developing our app using React Native CLI. And if you're in Mac, then you can use Xcode. Otherwise, we will use Android Studio. So today we'll demonstrate using Android Studio. So please continue installing everything. I've installed this in my PC. So what will we learn in this session is we will discuss briefly on why React Native. Rohan has already discussed a lot about this, so I will start in this section. And who is using React Native, just to give an overview of the community and why React Native as well, and how React Native works. We'll dive deep, like how is it able to distinguish itself from being from other hybrid apps, and then also from other languages, and also develop apps natively. So we will dive how it works, and then finally I'll give you a simple guideline on installation and setup, which you can be able to do it by just googling everything into it by just googling. And then we'll discuss some basic concept of React Native, and we can start building an app. So today I'll help you build a to-do app, which is the simplest one we can begin with. So what is React Native? It is a JavaScript framework which was developed by Facebook, so we all know about it. And it's been React Native. It was developed in 2015, so it's almost been like 4 years that it has launched. So it's not a newbie kind of a thing. It has been there and it has gone through a lot of phases, and you can really trust the community and the code itself, the framework itself. So we have React it was basically built, React Native is built using JS and React, which was built to develop rich UI using declarative components. So who is using React Native? I'm not going deep into what is React because I guess you all know it, and our earlier presenters also, like Rohan also said it very briefly. So likewise, Facebook obviously uses it. We have other apps like Instagram, Pinterest, Walmart, SoundCloud, Adidas. These are the apps that are actually using it. So you can just always if you want to know more about React Native and who are using it, you can go to the official sites and visit their showcase link. You can get the information of apps that are currently using React Native. So why React Native? Uh, so basically, it's a real app. Being an Android developer, for me to switch to some other platform, I had to think a lot. And so when I dived into React Native, the only thing that I liked the most was being able to build native Android code as well. So it gives me control. At the same time, it gives me an high level of what do we say? It helps me get control over my native code as well, and at the same time build for both platforms together. So it saved a lot of time. So that's why I found that React Native was very helpful. And yes, it was building native mobile app. Um, the basic part is that whatever is built in React Native compiles down to whatever is being understood by Swift or Java. That's why it is nothing like you're building another hybrid app using WebView or anything similar. So you are really building a native app. And the UI is, so basically React was built to give you a declarative API so that you can build responsive UIs. So this comes in handy with React Native as well. So declarative in the sense, when I started using React Native, the first thing that I noticed was being able to change my code, which was completely imperative that we used to use in Java, where we have to the codes were very, whatever I have to make changes in my code, I have to predefine them. I have to predefine all the functions and everything so that uh, there used to be a lot of getter and setters and a lot of unnecessary codes we needed to write. This was reduced drastically, and this really made me feel the difference of React and code usability. So basically, the main thing is that you can build now iOS. Now I'm not just an Android developer; I can also build for iOS. So that's one thing that is very useful. Another thing that I really liked about React Native is instant live updates. So this one I've been using very often, not very often, but I have been using it. And what I loved about it is it reduced my time to release my app and the entire cycle of updates that we have to go to App Store or Play Store and then go live, that is drastically reduced. So just for one simple bug fix, I can do it instantly. We used to see this only in web apps, but now we have that ability in mobile thanks to React Native. So yeah, compatibility with third-party plugins. So basically, React has a very good community. Yeah, I can see a lot of people. There's a lot of libraries, a lot of resources you're going to find. So you're never alone because of the community itself. And yes, it's simple and easy to learn and start up with. So how does it work? Basically, React, like I've explained earlier, it works in two different realms. One is JS and another is native threads. And these two are actually combined together that they to communicate together using a bridge. And this bridge provides a bidirectional asynchronous communication between the two entirely different universe, that is JS and then native threads. So one flexibility that came along with this architecture was React was built to communicate with, it was originally built to develop in iOS apps. So one flexibility was Apple itself came along with JavaScript core framework. So whatever you write for iOS development, it is basically compiled down using JavaScript core framework. So that was an easy part for React to build an iOS app because of the entire architecture of Apple itself. However, In Android, it has to use it had to rely on Java native interface JNI that helps compile down our JS code into Java understandable form. So basically, Bridge is itself written in C, C++, which are the codes that the languages that we use to compile down codes. So we can call Bridge as message broker. Yeah, you can just learn about Bridge over there. So it helps decouple our different languages into interoperable languages. And whatever I explained just now can be seen in the slide itself. So we'll start with creating new React Native project. So if you guys have already installed Node and you have all the environment set up, so we have two options to create React Native apps. First, we have Expose CLI, and another is React Native CLI itself. Expose CLI, I won't be using this one for this presentation. Because, however, for anyone who wants to start up fast and completely with an ease, please use Expose CLI. You don't have to consider about Android or iOS code or anything at all. You can, it will make your life easy. So basically, you can directly start writing codes in Java, JS, and then run your app using an Expo client app in your devices. You don't even need Xcode or Android Studio installed in your PC. However, I'd like a little bit of control because I'd like to update my Android or iOS code if I have to. So I will be using React Native CLI. So for this, we will need a Node. And if you're in iOS, then you'll be using Watchman. Otherwise, we'll be using Python 2 for with Windows. So these are just to know if you have any changes in real time, this will be updated quickly. So Watchman or Python 2, you will need that to run React Native. Other than that, we will need React Native CLI, which the code is itself in the slides, or you can just go to the website and just click on getting started. You'll know, you'll get a brief of how to install React Native and get started with it. So npm install g React Native CLI, that will help you install React Native and start coding. So let's create a project using React Native init to do app. So I will close the early projects. So I will be creating a project right on the desktop. So it will be
Yeah, in the meantime, if there is any question regarding the presentation about the React Native, you can just type the question.
so you can just go to React Native sites. We have like a brief documentation on getting started with React Native here. So either you can use Expose CLI or React Native CLI with Windows. So today we'll be using Windows. After you're done with all the installation process, we'll be creating an app using React Native init to do app. So that will create our first React Native project. starting, I'll continue with the slides. What we will be learning today is we'll go through we'll have a walkthrough of the project that will be created after we do React Native init, and then we'll just see the hello world because it's mandatory. As a developer, you have to first begin with the hello world. Then we'll get into knowing what JSX is, and then we'll learn about props and state. Then styles and layouts that are used in React Native. We will learn about how we will handle events in React Native, and the main components that React Native is built on. So we'll learn about what components are, how its lifecycle is. While we do this, we will be doing we will be creating our app as well, side by side. So if you can see, if you have started your project, then you will see opening any of your ID, you can use either Sublime or anything. I'll be using VS Code. So you'll see that I have a little snapshot of how your project structure is going to look. So if you use Expo CLI, you won't be seeing Android or iOS folders. But with React Native, we will get Android folder, which will give us everything related to Android will be here. Your builder.gradle, your manifest, everything will be in this folder. Similar with iOS folder. Anything that we use, other libraries, additional modules that we use will be in node modules. So app.js is it looks something like HTML, but it's the native element as well. So our main code will be writing in app.js. App.json will be just names. It will be related to the application. We won't be using that much. Index.js, it's like everything, your application will bootstrap from there. And then all the dependencies will be in package.json. So these are just the basics of the folder structure that you will go through and that we will be using. Mostly we will be using just Android and iOS if we have to. Otherwise we'll be creating our own JS files as we go along and start using it. So next, my project has been created. So let me show you the project.
So there is one question. While releasing the app on the App Store, Play Store, what are the problems we may face and tools we can use to release different versions of
The
app?
releasing part is similar to whatever you do while you build a native app. Problems we may face. I don't think there is React Native specific problems that you will be facing when releasing the apps. And the tools. So if you're using live instant updates, then you can use Code Push, which is completely different from being App Store or Play Store releases. So yes, you will have to maintain your own version in there. However, for App Store and Play Store, you will have to create, like in case of Android, you will have to create a key store file. You have to have your versioning maintained there. It is same to whatever you used to do with React, with native app deployment. Structure that I have explained to you earlier. We'll look into app.js. So we'll be starting with everything default here. Like it says, welcome to React Native. This is our default Android, this is our default React Native project setup that will be given to us. So to simply run, we will do React Native run dash Android. So before that, let's have an emulator running. So while I start my emulator, I'll again continue with my slides as well. So we'll go through the hello world so imports, whatever we need for our component will be in this imports file, like React components that we will be using. Platform is like which platform for that specific we'll be using it. Like in this place, we have written like for iOS we'll be using this. For Android we'll be using this. So that's our instruction. So platform we'll be using like that. We have a class named app. Which is a component and which uses props. So this is highlighted in red. It's actually not that necessary to give pass props like this. We can remove this as well. And then basically the views will be rendered here. So inside render, whatever our view that the UI, whatever our UI element is, will be written in here. So view, text are all components that are given to us by React Native. So view is like a container and text is like, you can guess it, it's a text. So it's a simple label that will be visible in your app. We will do our designs using styles, and the way to do it is using a style sheet. So this is similar to CSS, somewhat similar. And these are the, so if you have a little idea of how CSS works, you will understand this. So we're creating styles like container, welcome, instruction, and these styles are being passed to our components. We will dive more deeper into this as we go. However, this is an overview of how our hello world, our first set of app looks like. Begin by introducing you to JSX. So this is something really good that comes along with React Native. So basically JSX is what does it do? It's just a syntax for embedding XML into our JavaScript. So basically what used to happen was we used to write JavaScript inside HTML, right? But these days, with using JSX, what we can do is we can reverse this process. That is, we can write our markup language inside our code. So, like we saw it earlier, app is a component whose view looks like whatever is in that. You can see it. The view looks like that. So unlike past, instead of putting JavaScript into HTML, now JSX allows us to put these HTML into JavaScript. So now wherever we need to render our views, we can simply pass them using JSX. And this is all done using components. So separating them, we can separate our concerns in React Native using components. So likewise in the app.js, that is also one component. But here we have a coding standard, or we can say style, where we separate our components into dummy components that tend to take only the props that we pass. We'll dive into this more deeper when we start coding. This is how we separate our UI with the logic. When we say that we can embed our HTML into our markup language into JavaScript, you might be wondering, our code might look ugly and things like that, but we can separate it beautifully using components. So let's start with props as well. So props are all set by the so let's just say it's property. So whatever your component needs, whatever your component needs, that are the properties. Like maybe I have a text view which renders name, that is passed through by, that is a property which will be passed through by its parents or anywhere, but my component will be ready to take name wherever from whenever it is passed. So that's the good part of it. It gives us extra information to our components, and basically we write props in presentational components. So like I said, in dummy components we just pass what do you say, our props into it. So let me show you how to do this. So here I have text style like this, right? Let me just say another one that I want to use is image, which is a component that is also provided to us by React Native. I'll be adding the component like image. So if I happen to pass a source in this, all right, some URL like props that are being passed into my component that is image. I guess you guys know what props is by now. So whatever my component needs, the kinds of property it needs, that are all props. So next, let's go into states. So what I forgot to mention with props was it is immutable. That is, you cannot change the property once passed to the component. It will always remain the same. So what if I want to change that? So for this condition, we use states. States are mutable, and we can initialize state in constructor like in the example, and then we change it using set state. So states can be updated in future while props cannot be updated. So whenever we have a component that needs to react with changes, we use states, which will automatically update itself. So next is styling. I won't go deep into this slide. So likewise, like I already said, our styles, we use style sheets, which looks like CSS, but it's actually Flexbox related styles. So for that, we use flex dimension for creating heights and everything. We use stylesheet.create for cleaner codes. We can also not use stylesheet as well. However, that's the standards that we are following. So here's an example of how styles look like using in stylesheet. So we have containers, headers, different kinds of names of the styles that we want, and then the properties that we're giving it, like flex1. So basically flex, like in web, how much space that you want to dynamically arrange inside the how much space do you want to dynamically give the specific container that you're building. That's used for flex. So just to create a dynamic UI, we use Flexbox. So yeah, layout with Flexbox. So a component can specify the layout of its children using Flexbox, yes, like I suggest, and it gives us a consistent look. Since we are dealing with mobile apps, we will deal with different kinds of screen sizes. So to make our screens look consistent along all the devices, Flexbox help us. So we have three combinations that we use with Flexbox. A little overview of that is in this slide. So we use flex direction to justify our content, like how we want to arrange it, column wise or row wise. Similarly, justify content like central or to the bottom, and everything. So we have these three elements. If you can just simply learn this and then start building your app as well seamlessly. Align item to justify align item and justify content. You can use it together for arranging your elements horizontally, vertically, and along rows or columns. So this might come pretty new for someone like me who is from Java background, so Android background. We don't have something similar. We have some similar thing, but we don't use Flex at all. So we use it using weight and everything like that. So yeah. So before this, let's just start creating a simple UI, and then we'll get into handling events. So I will be removing everything that is not necessary here. So since we're building a to-do app, what I would like to do is remove this, and we won't be using instructions as well. So we have a simple view. I'll create a separate component from where we will be rendering our to-do list items. So for this, just to make a good arrangement, I will create an SRC folder where I will write all the codes related to my JS, all the JS codes. So I'll be creating a text, my own text field. Just call it notes.js. So here, everything related to my notes will be adding here. So let me just copy paste this simply. So this is my yes, it has a style and everything is the same. So basically, I'll be using text, and this text I'll be showing two texts. One is the note that I have that I will be entering into the app, and then the date when I enter the note. So there will be two text views, and then we'll be passing props into it. So one will have the name of what I'm going to use. Another will have the date. So let's just so date in the front, and then copy these two as well. I'll be creating some one is for date, another one is for name. Simply I won't be doing this, simply I will give them fonts. And maybe color. So and then similarly I'll be doing so I've created a basic text view, and let's just import it inside our main app.js of my writing notes. And simply write notes. So I will need to pass an element. I mean, just pass the dummy. Will contain name for like and date. Let's say it's I'll be passing this. So here I'll be using data dot. Let me run my emulator. So I'll be writing other codes as well. So since we need to enter our text view, we need to add datas. So let's just do it using text input field. That will help us get some input from our user. So we have another element component that is given to us by React Native, that is text. Another view. Here.
We have one question. Can we preset features of Webpack to strip down the JS code? Sagatama is telling something about the presetting features. Okay. So I think that in Webpack, just I bring the Angular. So I think the the main part of presetting is that the unused code will be deleted from if we do presetting. If we build the package, then all the unused code will be removed from it. So, so it should be in the React Native also. I think so.
Yeah, since the main one, it runs in JS.
Yeah.
So I think it should be doable. I haven't tried it, so I won't be able to like say confidently about that. But yes, I think we can use it because it's completely purely JS.
Yeah, we can preset the code. Yeah.
Let me just copy paste text input fields. So let's just take this view from here and save some time. Now emulator is running, so let's get inside our folder. Let's run our app, React Native. So here, the state that I was talking about is described in this sample. So let me just first create that state through our constructor. All packages started. So continue with the slide as well when we are running our project. So we worked with creating components and then passing props and then also creating our states and handling states. Now we'll talk how we are going to handle events in React Native. So there's like two ways to do it. We have either we use basic buttons, which is provided to us. Another component that is provided to us is touchables to handling events. So this is also similar to buttons, but the thing is we can use touchables with any kind of view and it will give us the ability to handle events. So we have basic buttons which will look like this. We won't be using basic buttons for now. I will be using touchables. So we have four types of touchables with React Native. One is touchable highlight for anything for links on web. We use highlights. Another is touchable native feedback. So this is similar to Android where we saw ripple effects. We can use that use this to create one. Another is touchable opacity, which we will be using in our demo. So it will give us the same kind of feedback like using in the button. Another is touchable without feedback. That is, we won't have the feedback displayed. So you guys can explore more into this. But today we'll be using touchable opacity. So we have an issue here. Location not found. So for any new, whenever you're starting a new project, you guys might come into this problem. So local dash property, the file is not created. You can either simply run your project with Android Studio, or you can create a local.properties file itself in your project. Here you have to give your source directory as your SDK location here. So let's just use example of how local dash property. The first thing that anyone developing React Native and Android will we just need to create a create a file with let's just add it in our Android folder. So if you run it through your Android Studio, you will get an idea of where it is. So probably my SDK is here. If not here, then you can go through your Android Studio and see where your location is as well with SDK Manager. Let's run it again. So let's add a text view that will help us doing events using touchables. So let me get that code to our document as well. I will have my text that is written as handle our so I will write a function called save here. So we won't be passing anything into it. This will basically just save whatever is written in the text into our state. Oh, sorry, we've already done this here. So we will be passing this to our main component where we will create the main list that will save everything. Let me just import this as well. View must be completely out of order. So it seems that our SDK location is incorrect. So let me just check where my SDK is while everything is being set up. So components, these are the basic building block of our React itself. So components lets us build, it lets us split our UI into independent reusable pieces and think about it in a piece of isolation. So whatever is used in the slide itself. So like I said in our first slide, that using components we were able to separate what JXS introduced us was components, using which we were able to embed our HTML into the JavaScript codes. Similarly, we could separate our UI with the logic using components as well. So React Native provided us with a number of built-in components, which you can go through the React Native sites and learn about it in detail. And at the same time, we can also create our own components like we did just now. We created notes component and we also created a custom input text component. So we can also customize it by ourselves. So likewise, we just saw that it also accepts props, and then we can use it accordingly. So some of the basic components that we are given is view, text, images, input text, scroll, view, style. So these are all components that are given to us by React Native. There are other things as well that you can go into sites and look into it. So I'll give you a brief introduction of the life cycle that the component goes through. However, we won't be demonstrating how the life cycle works. You guys can test it yourself. But however, for the mount cycle, we have like two types of cycles. One is mount cycle, in which this is similar to, now I won't be able to say for iOS, but however the naming conventions of the methods are kind of similar to what it is in iOS rather than in Android. So it will be very easier to understand, like component will mount, that is before our view is about to render, that will be called right after our constructor is called, then render is called, and then component did mount is called. And then every time we have some, so this is called once while, this is only during the mount cycle. However, when there is an update, now this all will be called in a different, that is the internally there will be should update component, that method will be called, and after that component will mount, and then we use render, and then after did update. So basically, as a developer, we usually use did update. We basically use component did update to update our views accordingly, and render is so if there is any change in our any change in our states and everything, did update will be called, and then our view will be re-rendered. So we should also be very critical on like understanding when to use did update and not keep calling it again and again. Our app might go into a lot of loop cycles if we do that. So these are some critical cycles that we need to understand in order to create the app. So the app that we will be creating is somewhat like this. So I've added some few codes to our app.js file. So right now we have a scroll view. Inside that we have notes component that we just created, and then another one is custom text input component that we also created, which will take some callback, and that will save nodes into our array. All right. And similarly, I have nodes component that will take props, item, and index. So right now I don't think we also need to pass index. So first we will just show whatever is using here. So I will briefly explain what is happening here. First I created a state in which I have nodes.array. So this will, our app.js will maintain this state, and our intention is to update this state as when the user enters the node. So how do we save it? Simply, it's just a JS logic, nothing related to React. So we created a save node function, and then if the text is available, I will push those values into our node.array, node array, with nodes being the text being passed, and then I will add the date that is current date, like this. And then finally we will save everything into our node array. And that's simply, and this method itself will be passed to our custom input text that is that will take our callback. What I need to do is, in this custom input text, I will have to call my state text. So on press we'll call the save, and then in that I will pass the text, and at the same time I will make whatever is in our text field empty. So I'm passing it in Python, so let me write it Python here. So what is happening inside the scroll view? Let me explain it. So inside the scroll view, so basically it's just we need to pass list. That's why I'm using scroll view. You can use flat list or anything else. So it's a simple list. That's why scroll view for now to just get started. We're just, if the nodes array is present, then we will go into rendering this nodes item. And how we will do it is we will map through it with the items and index, and then we'll pass the item one by one to our nodes component. So that's what is happening here. Let me see if my project has started. It hasn't started yet. Still, it hasn't started. It's taking a lot of time. Let me just restart it. I've restarted it because it was taking a lot of time. Okay, now our build has been successfully started.
There was a question to the police sir. So we will answer that question. What if I want to launch front end and back end on separate machine or server? So he's talking about the Node.js and React.
It's a pretty good question because this is one common simple. So basically, two repos containing the same code, they can run different scripts, right? For example, if you, in your package of JSON, you have inside scripts, you have yarn stuff. But in another one, you have in another folder, you also have content of JSON whose yarn start says start the backend server. So what you can do is you can put the same code on different machines. On one, you can do yarn start on the from inside the folder that contains the front end app, and on another you can do yarn start on the folder that contains the backend app. Both of them contain the same code, but both of them are not running the same. And in fact, this is one of the cases where I feel that the concept of the shared construct JS can really comes into play, because now this is a classic case of both the front end and the back end needing access to the variable called server underscore URL or something, and then that will contain the URL of the server. I mean the backend server, right? For instance, once you build the front end and put it as put it inside the build folder of the back, yes, then so URL on the front end as well. Now, why would you need the server URL in the back end when you are sending emails? Password reset email, then you will need to send the full URL. You need to know the server URL. So this is one example where, for example, in the cons.js file that I have shown earlier, you could put the server URL. Then the front end could use the server URL for many things, and the back end can also use the same server URL. And you can deploy the front end on one server, and you can deploy the back end on another server, and they will work seamlessly. So that is how.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Yeah, okay, so let's continue with the presentation. Yeah.
So meanwhile, I've been correcting all the issues that we were facing. So one thing was I was trying to access a property that was not being passed, that was name, so I converted it, and after that and then I changed a little bit of UI. So now our app looks like this. So we can simply add new nodes and then save it, and that will be added to our list. So basically now, according to our whatever I demonstrated as well, there you can add more features to it, like you can delete these nodes, you can edit them and everything. So how we handled events in this particular case was that we even passed our functions as a prop here. So whenever the save button was clicked, we called the save function, which on the other hand called our method to save, which was being passed as a prop from app.js, our parent component. And here we were saving all the nodes that has been entered through this component into our main list. And whatever was being added automatically got rendered to nodes because it is all saved in states, and this state was being watched in by nodes. So this is basically how you can create a seamless, simple app from React Native. Yeah, so if you want to access this project, I have added this project in my GitHub repo as well, so you guys can go through it from there as well. Feel free to contribute if you want to. That's it for today's webinar. If you guys have any question, please do ask.
About how can we improve the performance in the long list in the React Native?
So basically for list, React Native gives us a component called flat list. So it's something similar to what we have like Recycle list in Android, Recycler view in Android. So yes, scroll view simply renders all the list into the app. So if you have like hundreds of items in your list, then scroll view will add everything into it, but flat list will only render those that are visible in the screen. So yes, we have an option to use flat list.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Shilu, for your wonderful presentation on getting started with React Native. So yeah, we are on the end of our webinar series to webinar for all Nepal about that how we are engaging and what are our future plans. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, Zaraz. We are at the end of webinar for All Nepal Series 9. I will take some time just to thank all the awesome presenters. I think they have done a great job to let you know about different aspects of React technology. सबैलाई चाहिँ म धन्यवाद दिँदै अब हामी आगामी सेसनमा चाहिँ विल ह्याभ अ सरप्राइज फर यु अल अहिले नै सबै कुरा नगरौँ सो अरू सेसनमा पनि यतिकै सहभागिता जनाइदिनुहुन्छ होला भन्दै सबै प्रेजेन्टरहरूलाई प्लस जो तपाईँहरू एटेन्ड हुनुभयो सबैको लागि चाहिँ धन्यवाद दिँदै आई थिङ्क विल क्लोज दिस सेसन
Yeah, thank you, Santosh sir. And thanks to our supporters facilitating us, Take a Lick, Take Patro, Broadway Infosys, Megabytes, and Living with ICT, and mostly to Microsoft and for depending on Bajaj sir also. Yeah, so thank you all the speaker and all the attendee. Thank you, Puni sir, Roshan and Shilu, for your wonderful presentation on the React as well as on React Native, and we hope we'll be coming more topics on our upcoming series on the webinar for All Nepal Series 10. So that will be probably after 2 or 3 months. So just wait for it. And thank you for attending. And good night. See you on Series 10. Bye.